Hey everyone, welcome to Ellis Mowers. I appreciate y'all watching the channel as always. Let's start today on this repair. We're going to do a Troy Bilt Bronco. It's a newer one. I think it's like a 2014 model or something along those lines. And I'll give you the history of it in just a second while we give it a look around. But I do know that it is going to need a few things. I think it's just missing a few parts, and I think somebody tried to work on it and didn't really have good success. And you know what happens when you fall off that slippery slope. So, but that's what it is. I think we just got to put some parts on it. Everything looks to be in decent shape overall, save for the belts. Can only abuse a mower so much in what, 8 years, right? So one thing I have already done, which I have already shown y'all on the channel, a dedicated video. If I can remember to put this video in the description, I will. Is I have fixed the steering that pops on this, like the popping steering where it won't turn the wheel. I have already replaced that washer since I've already covered it in a very recent video. But the rest of it, we're just going to see what we can end up getting ourselves into here. Hopefully it won't take too much to get going, because I really need to get a riding mower fixed and out of here. My backyard is looking really bad. So let's go ahead and get started on this Troy Bilt Bronco. If you have any questions about this video or any video that you see on the channel, feel free to reach out to me, Ellis at ellismowers.com, or at ellismowers09 on Instagram and Facebook. I also have affiliate links down below with some partner companies that I'm affiliated with. Let's go ahead and get started on this Troy Bilt Bronco. I'll show you everything that's wrong. I'll show you the story behind how I got it, and we'll figure out what else we got to do with this thing. Let's get started. Alright, let's go ahead and get rolling with this. This is a Troy Bilt Bronco. And if y'all know what the Troy Bilt Bronco trim level is, this is not the Pony. It's got the poor man's automatic transmission. It's just a Veradrive, with a different setup than the 7-speed. That's all that it is. They call it automatic. I call it poor man's automatic because it's a budget mower. But inside we've got a little Kohler Courage 17. I think, like I said, I think this is like a 2014, mostly because it might say on the engine here, but it's got this emissions tube and stuff, and that's like 2013 emission standards. So it's actually 2015. It's a little bit newer than I thought. So build date 11/25/2015. Hopefully by that time they got all the like cracked block deals sorted out. It seems like this block's a little bit more solid than the older Kohler Courages, and with it only being a 17, it probably doesn't have as much vibrations and stuff going on with it. I do have to figure out something with this little shroud cover, because I think it kind of does want to pop off. We'll see if it does. If it does, it ain't that big of a deal, but I like to have that some sort of shield. I might be able to put it like a what am I trying to think of? Self-tapping screw into one or two of these just to keep it in. We'll see what we end up needing to do there. The biggest thing, and I bought this probably 2 to 3 months ago now, wanting to get going here, and some of y'all are generous enough to send one my way, but I ended up buying one before I asked. So I appreciate all y'all trying to help me out there. This module's like $30-some. This module was missing off of this mower, so we'll go ahead and make it unmissing while we're sitting here. Repair number 2 done. So this right here has got all your stuff. Again, we've got a little bit of dirt in here, but we can pop the plug back on, and luckily these are pretty plentiful, so it's not that difficult. And we'll pop this little switch back in. I thought about rigging a switch, but with the condition of what I think this mower is going to be in when I finish it, I think we're going to actually have a nice mower. So I wanted to try and make it still look original, and for $30-some, I think I'll get my return on the investment on that. The gas tank is out of it. The bracket is sitting right over here along with the battery bracket. This thing had a bunch of, I've already cleaned this mower up, from which, as y'all can tell, Well, maybe y'all can't, but this thing was really dirty when I got it. Went ahead and cleaned it up because I needed to test out a pressure washer, and I knew this was coming up pretty soon. So that's what we're doing. It's got a couple of rips in the seats. Need to find a couple of oh, what is that? Well, yeah, I got to find something to secure it down here so that it doesn't wiggle back and forth, because these little things are missing on it. I might even have a seat that has those on it and just swap that out. But the date of manufacture of this was a 2 of 2016, so we're only talking about 7, 8, 9, 6 years old, which is super. It's lived a hard 6 years though, that's for sure. So we've got this in. Next we're gonna put a battery in it and just see if it'll turn over. And if it does, we'll keep on cruising on and spray a shot of starter fluid in it, see if it'll kick off. And then what other things we've got to do. In addition, I've got to replace at least the drive belts in it, because the drive belts are really bad, really cracked. And I don't know the carb situation because I see some stuff is off of it here, but it looks like all the linkages and stuff are hooked up like it's supposed to. The oil level's good on it. I didn't see a ton of leaks on it. Might as well dive into it while we're here, right? Because we're going to be taking this off anyways. Like I said, I've already replaced that steering washer right there, mostly because I wanted to move it around easier. And like I said, I've already covered this off camera, so nothing ridiculous. Oh, that air filter is shot. Holy cow. There's a bunch of dirt in there. We will definitely be replacing that. I have one of those here at home, thankfully, already. And in terms of, oh, let's see, what do we got here? Something is missing down there on the carb bowl. I don't know what that is. It's some sort of plug. It's like a, what is that? I don't even know. It's just a random plug to something that's missing, so we might end up taking the carb bowl off and just seeing if it... I'll see if the little solenoid works or not, because I don't see the power wire going anywhere. Ugh. That might be a little rough. We'll get there. Overall, though, not bad, I don't think. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to throw a battery in it. See what I got over here in battery wise. We'll see if we can start this thing up. I think we're at that point now. I don't know if I can show y'all very well the the belts, but that belt, this deck belt's okay. What's killer is I'm missing these covers. It seems like I'm always missing these things for some reason. And we'll check the blades and then we'll move on to the repairs, because I've been yabbering way too long here. So the blades are definitely going to need replaced. I have those here as well. We might order those little covers for it as well. That is after we get it running. As long as I know it runs, I'll replace the drive belts, replace all the belts on it, and be done. The story behind how I got this, I forgot to mention at the beginning. I got this mower, I paid essentially $50 for it after I delivered the old gray Craftsman rear engine rider that I had. I sold that. No, that's not the old one. I bought the Craftsman rear engine rider for $200. And I think I got like $250 for it and paid $50 for this basically. So I had it listed for $300, sold it for $250, got this as well. So I'm in the very good here. Let me hook a battery up. Let's see if it'll start. All right, y'all. Well, we're at this point here. Like I said, we've got plenty of oil in it. I put a battery in it, gave it a couple of cycles, and come on. I think the battery So I don't know if it's the, I don't know what's going on, but what we're gonna do is, sounds a little loud, but we're just gonna throw a little starter fluid in. See if it'll crank. That's good. That is good, guys. Like I said, it's got plenty of oil in it. This air filter is shot, though. Look at this thing. It was sucking in, I don't know what, but it was sucking in some rough stuff because it was recessed, so you know it was having a hard time breathing. So that's about as good as the trash can. Woo! Like I said, I've got another one. I just got to get it. Put it on. Inside of this is really dusty. I mean, just terrible. So now what I'm going to do, I'll go ahead and put the gas tank bracket back on, and then I guess I'll find some zip ties and throw a couple of zip ties around this, because we're basically done back here. And then we will I'll probably change out the fuel filter and fuel line, which means I have to take off this little cover here. And then we should be good to go after that, I think. Hopefully. Obviously, we do oil change and stuff, but so to attach this back on, all it is 4 screws, and we're gonna put it on. I don't know what way it goes actually. Does it go? Probably goes like this with the steering shaft at the back. So I'm gonna take the fuel tank up and off. I'll do this real quick while y'all are here. So I'm anticipating that it's not gonna be a ton of work on this, hopefully. Take the fuel tank up. Take the fuel line down. Slide everything down here. And then I'll take some screws out. Come on. You know you want to come out. There we go. Come on now. So we just got to get it in there and put these bolts on, and we'll be good. I'll do that off camera because that's going to take me a minute, and I'm notorious for videos running long. So I'll catch up with y'all in just a second here. Alright guys, we're at the point where I think I'm going to try and get this thing to run on its own without starting fluid. I have zip tied the gas tank back in place, and it's just odd that they use zip ties to keep a gas tank in place, but anyways, new fuel line, new fuel filter in the back here. I know it's the dome style, but we're talking about gravity feed here, so that's fine. And then a shut-off switch, and looks like all the safeties and everything are working like they're supposed to be. So let me hop on this thing and see if I can get it to start. I don't know the stats of that battery, but I might have to throw a new battery in here instead of one that I just freshly got off the charger. Yeah, let's see if it'll run on its own. wanted to make it like 2 revolutions before it popped off. I had a feeling that might be the case. I'm thinking, I really think that air filter is what did this thing in. I bet it was running like absolute trash with that air filter on it. Let me put an air filter on it, and we'll see if we can go for a ride, see if this thing will drive and cut and all that good stuff. And then we'll start buttoning things up, like putting some drive belts on it, and fixing the seat to where it's not going to swivel, because that's not the way that it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be sitting down here on these little clamps that are recessed inside the seat right now, so that's going to be fun trying to get those out. But yeah, so she's a runner. Let me put the air filter on it, and we'll go for a little bit of a ride. Got to figure out a few other little things with it though, like swapping the belts and a couple other things. We're already very close, guys, very close. All right, guys. So one thing it's also important to do whenever you do something like this, whenever you're just getting a mower going for the first time again, before you get the mowing deck going, I made this mistake and broke a belt one time. But make sure all your pulleys and spindles are free and turn freely, because you don't want to have an issue with those and trying to having them freeze up and stuff. And these are all free, so that's good. All the belts and everything look free as well. So, and the blading gauge is working, so we're in good shape when it comes to that. Let's see if we can get this thing to crank here one more time. Throttle's a little sticky there on the Alright, let's see if this thing will go into gear here. There we go. Told you these belts are in really bad shape, so got a noise coming from one of the pulleys, but it is running and moving. So that's good. Poor man's automatic. Or I should call it poor man's hydrostatic, right? Let's see what we've got going on here. It actually seems to work pretty good. Let's see if I'll engage the blades. I'll kind of do it at half throttle and do it slowly. Let's see if it'll disengage. It needs a little bit of a return spring on it. I don't know where if I've got that. Once I do that though, it's ready to roll. is a little bit cracked, actually. Darn. Does that hold the cable on, or is that just a... Let's see. It may just be like a slot filler here. Let's see. I'll determine if it's important enough to actually replace it real quick. Let's see what we've got. So we've got the cable that goes into this metal thing. So that plastic thing, all it is like a little... Like if I cut it off, it ain't gonna be like the end of the world. I'll lube it up though a little bit. Because that just determines, like, that's just a little slot thing. So like if you kind of pull it out, it's not going to do that. So I'll throw a little bit of WD-40 or whatever on it. That should do it. Man, I'm surprised. This thing runs great. Been sitting in this guy's backyard for I don't know how long. There were actually dirt dog or whatever you want to call them nests in the fuel line themselves. And so I just replaced the fuel line just to mitigate that problem. Things I've got to do. Fix the seat. Should be... Hardest part about that's just going to be fishing them little things out and then finding some bolts that'll work. And or wing nuts or whatever. And then basically it's just changing out some drive belts and finding a return spring for this thing. And honestly, I think it's ready after that. Do it up good enough, but only put some blades on it as well. So let me go ahead and start working on that. I got to take the deck off anyways to replace the drive belts. I'll go ahead and replace the blades while I'm at it. Alright guys, it's time to... I'm going to go ahead and get the deck and stuff taken care of here. While I'm here, I wanted to show you how these guys, MTD, started cheapening out on these mowers, especially in the mid-2010s. Things that I have noticed. And things that I noticed even when these mowers were new. I was just getting into the scene probably around this time, 2016 or so. I was getting in pretty good. And these used to have like a 19 horse Kohler courage on them, and they detuned them to 17 horsepower, I think in 2016. And the ponies had the 17.5 Briggs, which they detuned to 15.5 for these years in particular. I think they're now back up to a higher horsepower rating from what I understand. Another thing is that these decks used to have quick disconnects on the back here. Like this, I can't get over that MTD Craftsman, but you could just pull a lever and disconnect the deck. Here I've got to take the cotter pin out. And so those are two of the big things that I've noticed on these newer Troy Bilts that are supposed to be kind of an upgraded model. They also cheapened out on the tires and put a softer tread tire on it, which usually they have these treads on it. The right rear on this one actually had a split in it, and I had that one here, and it's actually held air ever since I put air in it like two and a half months ago. So you got a cheap way to connect the deck. You've got a detuned engine. We don't have grease fittings on the front here for the axles, so that's probably why the steering ended up going bad on it. Oh, what else? You do get the reverse. Some of the Broncos you don't have the reverse feature on. I know the ponies don't. I think that's about it, but just overall cheaper made. Trying to cut costs, cut corners. You know, you spend, I don't know how much this thing probably was, about $1,700 new, which in today's market would have been a good deal. But just some things like the wash port's not on here anymore for the deck, from what I can tell. But like I said, I don't know anything else. I don't see anything else glaring obvious. I just wanted to show that to y'all while I was here and thinking about it. I'm going to get this deck off, and we'll check the condition of the blades and go ahead and get those off. But oddly enough, of all the things that have a grease zerk on them, the anti-scalp wheel has one. Go figure. How about that? The one on the both of them on the mower on this side. So hey, well, that's all right. Let me get the deck off. We'll see the condition underneath. I do see I have a little bit of surface rust. I might top that off or patch that up with some spray paint while I've got it off. And we'll also inspect the drive belts while we're at it. The deck belt, from what I can tell, looks good. So that's good. That's one less thing I'll have to do. I will have to raise the front of this deck up because it has that look like like it's trying to be aerodynamic or something. So let me get the deck off. Again, it's really easy to get this deck off. It's just make sure you take your belt off, take this cotter pin off, that cotter pin off. You take your spring off for your deck and the cotter pin on the left side, and these things are off. It don't take a couple minutes to get them off. So let me do that. Alright guys, so let's take a look. I've already replaced the blades on this. I got the deck off. I did just like I mentioned, getting everything off. Fairly easy process. And here are the old blades. You can see that these blades have lost basically all of their lift, which means that they're just not gonna, they're basically just gonna lay the grass over and not cut them very well. So we'll just pop those in the trash because they're not gonna be good for me anymore. I have the new blades on. One thing I did notice, if you look, I mean, I'm gonna put new blades on this because I do believe that this mower deserves to have new blades because it is fairly nice. You can kind of see a little bit of crusties under the deck here to where it was trying to start rotting just because of where it was sitting at, but nothing crazy. The blades work good. And one thing I did notice is that this would be the left spindle, wouldn't it? The left spindle ended up having the little 6-tooth deal split out of it, or stripped out of it, and somebody had already actually put one of these washers on it to help give it more surface area so it doesn't spin around on itself. Man, I don't know how long that's been working for them, but it seemed like it worked just fine when I test mode it. I'm going to leave it like that instead of replacing the spindle shaft. I've had good luck with doing stuff like that, and this side was just fine. So, and then if I turn it over, give me just a second as I turn it over here for y'all. I'll show you what I did with the return spring that I mentioned. Alright guys, so the return spring was missing on this mower. I don't know exactly where it goes, so I was trying to experiment. Because some of them you have like a little arm here for the brakes. You can just attach it to that and attach it somewhere over here and it works. And others are a little bit different. This setup I think is going to work okay as long as it's not going to get in the way of the blade engage cable. And it might not. I'm not sure. We'll see. But I put a spring here on this arm and attached it to this random hole in the deck. I don't know why that hole is there, unless it's for, I don't know actually, because what this does when I engage it, so it's disengaged now, when I engage it, it'll pull back like that, and then when I disengage it, it'll go ahead and snap back, which is what you want it to do. I'd have to look at the manual to see exactly how this is supposed to be, but I'm going to test this out to see if it works. If not, I'll go back and see what I can figure out if I can get something a little bit better than this setup, if I have to. The only thing is you have to kind of figure out the spring tension here. You don't want it too tight, otherwise you're going to be busting cables. And that actually feels good. It may be just a hair tight, but I want to see how it works before I start adjusting it. So I have other springs too that will help. So I think this deck is basically ready to go. I am going to wire brush off some of this and take it over and spray paint it black. And then I'm going to move on to the drive belts. We do have access to the drive belts now. I'll show you how bad they look. The deck belt looks fairly good, so we're not going to worry about that. But we do need to worry about the drive belts, and I'm going to be kicking myself because I bought some. You can see the huge cracks in them. I bought some cheap aftermarket belts to see if I can get by with them, and I don't know if I'll be able to. But we'll see, guys. I might be kicking myself here because I really want to get this out this weekend. I'll show you the belts that I bought. I bought them for this, and they actually didn't work. So, like I said, I'll see what works here. The big thing is on these, I think the thickness is a little bit too thick. I'll show you when I get them off. But I think they're thick enough to where they actually will rub up against the pulleys and not work. Because if you go under here, you can kind of see that this belt here, even though it is a little worn, seems a little bit thinner than that belt right there. And so I think that's going to be a hang up for me, because that clearance right there in between those pulleys is really tight. I hope not, though. We'll see what I end up having to do. I know the rear belt will work fine, and the rear belt's better, but this definitely needs replaced, like no questions asked. So, because it's, like I said, it's literally just missing chunks out of the thing. And hopefully this belt will work. If not, we'll go back and I'll go buy an OEM belt. Part of me thinks that's what I'm gonna have to do, but we'll see. So I'm gonna go ahead and work on that. It's not terrible to do these on the Broncos, because all your Varadrive is in the back here. Your biggest thing is, what's the biggest thing? Where is that spring in the back? Does it have one? Yeah, right here. There's a spring right here that you have to pull off in order to release tension on the rear, so that you can get the rear belt off, and then you can get the front belt off. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and start working on after I paint the deck, make it look a little bit better, and hopefully that belt right there will work. If not, we'll go back and put a different one on. Alright guys, let me show you excuse me, the process of how I take these belts off. It's really not that hard. Once you get the hang of it, the older ones are worse. But we're back under the mower. There's a 5/8. You can take your double stack pulley off, because the guides go around the double stack pulley, and they're actually molded into the frame of the mower. There's one pulley right here. It's got a what is it, a nut on top, I guess. It's almost like a locking nut. Or I take that back. It's just, I guess it's just up there to be there. And, you take that off. I don't know why it's there, honestly. But, you take that bolt off. That bolt hops in. Oh, I think that nut goes in between the bolt and the pulley there. Yeah, I think that's what it does. I can kind of see the residual of it from right there. That allows the pulley to move freely around and not be bound up against the top of it. So I think somebody might have been in this already as well, but we'll see. So that you take this pulley off, and that allows you to get the belt to right here, and then you can go back to the back to your Varadrive. You got to take your battery and stuff out, but the biggest thing you've got to do is take this spring out right here, and that in itself is a little bit of a challenge. So well, taking it out is not that big of a challenge, but putting it back on is. So pliers or a screwdriver a lot of times will get you in here and get it off, and once you get it off, you're good to go ahead and finish replacing the belts after you take the battery out. And like I said, the hardest part about it is getting it back, getting that spring back on right there. So when I get the spring off, I'll tell you how I did it, because I don't want y'all to watch me struggle on camera. I'll go ahead and take the battery back out. This thing starts and runs just fine today, which is really good. And like I said, I'll take the battery out. We'll go ahead and get those belts swapped out, and then we'll see what we need to do after that. Alright guys, sorry I'm kind of facing the light for this repair. It's just easier in the garage for me. So I got that spring off. You can see it down there kind of near the top of the screen there under the frame. I'll show you how I usually put them back on. Also, there's 3 pulleys. There's that big pulley. You see where that hole is in the middle? It's sitting right here. That's a 15/16. If you're good, you can get an impact in it and get that nut off, which I've got sitting right here. The other pulley is that small hole right on the arm. I believe it's somewhere along there on the screen for you. And that's the little pulley. That's a 9/16. And if you're good enough, you can get a ratchet, an impact ratchet, I guess you'd call it, to get that pulley off. And that pulley just comes off with the whole nut and everything, or the whole, it's just a bolt, so it's not like you gotta put a nut on the bottom of it. And this Vera drive pulley, man, that's a fun one to do. And I think part of it is because this is actually beat in. I might have to beat it back out. But I ended up having to take a couple of these screws down here off to get it in. I think, like I said, I think I've got it's beat in right there, so I'm thinking I'm gonna take a hammer and just beat it back out, because this hits something back here, because you can kind of see it's recessed and indented a little bit. So, oh, sorry for the sun glare, y'all. But that's how I got the remainder of the belts out. I fished the top belt out, and then I fished the bottom belt out that goes over to the front of the mower. So now, I was checking. I'm going to be kicking myself if I got to do this again, but I need to stop thinking about saving money and just spend it on what it needs to be spent on. But these belts are, they're close, like really, really close. They're closer than I thought. This one obviously is worn down some. And then when I look at the thickness right here, let me see. It's really not that much of a difference. And I know these belts do wear over time, so I'm hoping that this belt just wore a little bit and this one won't get stuck and shoved up in there like, well, I did this Craftsman, but this one needed a lot of transmission work. I think that mess had been rigged, and I tried to rig it more, and it kind of worked for a couple years, and now it doesn't. So I'm going to take a hammer to that back frame and hammer it out, and then I'll fish. What I need to do is fish the bottom belt in first and get it on the pulley, the Vera drive pulley, and then I'll need to put the top belt on and go from there. And hopefully, like I said, these belts will work, even though they are aftermarket belts. Well, I should have known. I know better. I know better. I don't need to hear the comments. So we'll see if this works. If not, we'll throw some OEM belts on it. And I'll learn my lesson, and y'all get satisfaction of me learning my lesson. So, alright guys, I got the belts on. Hopefully they work. We'll find out here in just a second. Here's the final setup. I don't know how well I can show it to you, but I was able to get the belts around the pulley, especially after I beat this back panel back a little bit because it was dented in. I got this this back on, this pulley back on. It's a little tricky because you have to kind of come in from the side and then get it in the grooves, almost like you're putting a blade on. And then the front pulley was fairly easy as well. You do this before you reattach the spring. Now, I'll show you what I ended up having to do when I reattached the spring, because I've got some, where's that mechanics wire at? I put some mechanics wire together. Here we go. And I use this, I double knot it, double whatever it, to provide extra strength. Take this, hook it in through the hole, take some pliers or take something that'll allow you to get some leverage on it, and literally just pull it back. Now originally it went in that hole on your left. You see that when I got it through, I didn't want to lose it. And so what I ended up doing is it came in on the right side, ended up drilling a hole on the right there, and ended up just putting it in that hole, because once you get it through, you kind of want to keep it that way. So that's what we ended up doing with that. And the little retention spring that's supposed to go right here is gone. I might have one of those to put on, maybe not. If not, it works fine still. It just doesn't lock into gear as well. And so I'm gonna button this up a little bit, put the battery back in. Oh, by the way, let's show the bottom belt and how that's routed again. So this belt goes up like this. It kind of rests on the spring a little bit, so that's kind of interesting. When it tightens up, it gets off of it though. I think I've got to run it a little bit, but we're around the pulleys here. It seems like it moves freely, so that's good. Hopefully everything is nice and free, and hopefully I don't have to, wow, that sun glare is bad, y'all, sorry. And hopefully I don't have to do anything. But what I did is I routed it through, took this off up here on this pin, which I need to clip back in to get better access to the belt, to be able to just kind of push it through here. From what you can see, I got to push it up above this arm. So I took this arm off again. It's just a little clip, slid it through, went ahead and put it on these middle pulleys, and then put it on the end pulley. You kind of have to push on the end pulley or the crank pulley a little bit and pull. You have to pull on the belt a little bit as you slide it up, so it's a little tricky. And then I just need to bolt that 9/16 inch bolt, or 5/8 bolt right there. Again, we put the 9/16 back in up here, and then we're good to go. The bigger portion goes at the bottom. The bigger portion of the pulley goes at the bottom. I don't know how well I'm doing explaining this, but hopefully this is helping y'all out. It's funny because I could have done a drive belt on a Craftsman mower about 10 times over in the amount of time it takes me to do these. So let me get some clips on, let me button up a few things, put the battery in, and we'll test this thing out. Alright guys, I am back from dinner now, and we've just finished everything up here on the deck and whatnot. I don't know, some of the things I'm seeing looks like it's going to be okay. I had an issue as soon as I put everything back on to attempt to drive it with the starter solenoid. So I got a starter solenoid and put it on, and that seemed to have fixed the problem. Hopefully, we'll find out here in just a second. But also, I put the deck on. Everything seems okay. I'm not too much of a fan of, I'll show you, I don't have really a good alternative to what I've got here. But you see where the spring for the deck engage and the return spring that I put on there kind of rub on each other? It works, and it's not providing too much tension on the cable, but it does rub up against each other a little bit whenever I engage the blades. However, everything is clear, so it's not rubbing on any, like the belt's not going to rub on anything. Now that the return spring works, I'm sure that I'm going to have to put these caps on, which I have a couple here. I might just steal off of another deck for right now and put them around, because those guards actually act as belt guides, and when you don't have them, then this is what happens. And since this did not have them, what they did is I guess they took off their return spring, and a lot of times that works, and that's not the way to go about properly fixing these things. So let me take this out here, and we'll crank up the mower. I'll show you that it drives and everything. It actually surprisingly drives good from what I can tell. Oh, one other thing. I don't think I showed you all the seat, what I did with that. That is another important thing I was going to mention. So I was able to pop out these two pieces, these plastic pieces. I used this as leverage, and I just kind of got them in, put it on this little cart here, got it in the area to where these would lock in, attempt to, and then just barely tried to get threads in here. And once I got some threads in, I just kept screwing it in, and then I pulled it and kind of pulled it with a screwdriver to get it popped out. And then I put these bolts and washers in because I don't have the original hardware that went with this. All this does is act like a little slider, and these washers and bolts are going to prevent this plastic piece from getting sunk back into the seat. So all these do is slide whenever you slide whatever seat to whatever position that you want it to be at, and you're good when it comes to that once you do that. So we're good on that. Let's see if it'll crank. I think this thing might need a valve adjustment, but I'm not sure. What is that noise? Oh, you know how I mentioned that I didn't have everything bolted down all the way? That's one of the things I didn't do. I didn't bolt down the double stack pulley all the way. So I need to do that, and then we'll get started. All right, now that I have that bolted down, now let's try it. Whew. Man. A little crazy sometimes, I guess. Once it gets going, it kind of hesitates a little bit at first, but man, it stops when it wants to stop. What y'all think about the blades? You want to try them? Throw the belt. Yeah, throw the belt. Let's check. It did not throw the belt. I'm still gonna put them guards on it though, because it's only a matter of time. Awesome. That's really good, actually. I'm really surprised, honestly. 2 afternoons and this thing's basically done. I may have 3 hours into it so far. I do need to change the oil. I think if I get some fresh oil, and that'll lube things up a little bit better, and I think it'll stop that hesitation off of the top. But it runs really, it runs really good. I'm really surprised. The only thing, like I said, the only thing I have left to do at this point is put them guards on this deck, and then change the oil. So I'll go ahead and do that, and we'll take care of this and wrap it up essentially, because I think we're basically done here. I'm really happy, really surprised also. Number one, that the aftermarket belts actually work, which is kind of cool. But yeah, once I get this thing done, this is probably like it's at least a $600 mower, probably closer to $650. I might list it for $7 to see what happens. But yeah, I will take it. Easy so far. Just got to do a couple little touch-ups and we'll be done. Alright guys, I know we're getting kind of long on this video, but hang with me. I think I'm basically done with the repairs I'm going to show you. But I want to teach y'all a lesson. If you have one of these, use OEM belts. Y'all heard me the whole time on this video saying I hope these aftermarket belts don't bite me in the butt. Guess what? They did. So what happens is it ran fine for the front yard, but then as those belts heat up, and like I said, that thickness of that belt's just a little bit, and you would think, oh, that doesn't make a difference, right? Well, it does. That belt heats up, and it also gets sticky, and it starts sticking to the pulleys whenever you have the pedal not depressed, but whenever you're not pressing the pedal. And after mowing the front yard, I had enough wear on the belt from where it did that it starts what I call creeping forward, like it becomes hard to shift, and it tries to keep moving even after you let off the pedal. Well, that's because that belt gets hot and starts sticking, and it's a little bit thicker than a regular belt, so it kind of sticks on the pulleys a little bit, and it ain't good. So I'm gonna be redoing the belts. Lucky for me, this is not a Tractor Supply promo, but I got a bunch of belts. They had stuff on clearance. These are the 144959 deck belts for Craftsman LT1000s, 16 bucks a piece. OEM quality belt. The one that I got actually was only, there was two of them. They had two of them. This one originally was $44 and I got it for $27. And oddly enough, the one that I bought two of them because I've got a Craftsman back there that I think's got the same problem because I did cheap belts. The regular price one was $25, but they didn't have two of these. So anyways, Tractor Supply hooking me up. We're gonna put this belt on. It's a 0467 954 754, whatever you want to call it. And I mean, that should fix it. The other thing, I'll show you what I'm going to eventually do with the return spring because it was binding up like I thought it might. But apart from that, I think this thing is ready to rock and roll. I think I might have showed you all the belt guards. Let me do that real quick while we're here. I'm trying to keep this thing to about an hour because I hate going over an hour because that's a long time for y'all to be dedicated. So I had another deck here. I put the belt guards on. Unfortunately, I snapped one of the bolts, but I guess still got one on this side. And it was still trying to throw this deck belt. I got a deck belt at Tractor Supply just in case, because this belt is kind of loose. However, what I also did is I pushed these in a little bit on the side so that it can't come off of the bottom on this portion of the pulley. So I'm going to disengage it and engage it a few times to see. I cut the front yard with it. The engine runs great. It steers okay. It still seems like it's got a little bit of tight areas in the steering, which is kind of unfortunate. But again, you don't have any grease zerks and everything's out in the open, so that's going to happen. Return spring wise, you can see it, I guess you can see it kind of binding up back there. Ooh, with the sunlight, it's hard to see. But it's binding up where the blade engage cable is. So I did a little research, and this pin right here is actually a place to put a return spring, and it looks like you put the return spring on either right there where that bolt is. Man, that sun's killer. On the blade brake, or maybe we could hook it on the other side of the blade brake. So I'm going to try and find a spring that's going to work for that. But apart from that, this thing is basically done. Y'all have seen it run and drive and mow and stuff already. So I will finish that stuff up. I'll let you know the results, especially of the drive belt and probably the return spring as well. And we'll wrap this video up here in just a second. Alright guys, I'm going to do my best to show you what's been happening here. But I don't know if you can tell the difference in thickness. Ooh, let me see if I can get these belts right. That makes a difference, y'all. It makes a difference. So you can see that that one has been trying to get burned on the belt there. And the rear one, where did I put the rear one at? This is the one I'm just going to put the original one back on because it's just barely even got little cracks. That's an easy one to replace if we need to ever replace it. But I don't even feel confident in putting the rear belt on, because look at what it's been doing to the rear belt as I've used it. It's been trying to fray it because it's also a little bit on the thick side. I don't know if I can, just a tad bit thicker. And with it sliding around and stuff, I mean, those belts are as good as nothing. So I need to do some cleaning out around here with belts, because these aftermarket belts for these MTDs, don't use them. Don't use them. Learn from my mistake. So we've got an OEM belt here. As like I mentioned, this is a 954 or 754 0-0467A, made in Mexico, but bought at Tractor Supply. An OEM belt, we're gonna put it on, and I bet that's gonna solve the problem. Like I said, we're gonna put this, this is the original rear belt, but it's not looking like it's trying to throw chunks off like this one. So I'm fine with it. Deck belt, we're gonna test out. I have a deck belt if I need to put one on it, but we're gonna see if this right here works. Blade or blade brake setup with the return spring right here works great. Right here between this arm right here on the brake, blade brake, and this little slide out for the what would that be for? On the deck, that little pin on the deck. As long as the belt's not gonna rub it, which it's gonna be close, but we're gonna take a look. We're gonna see if it does. If it does, then we'll figure out something else. If I can get a smaller spring or something. It's gonna be close, but I think it's gonna be just fine. The deck belt, like I mentioned, there's no cracks or really bad wear on it. It may just be stretched a little bit. But we'll see if it works as well while we are here. I'll put everything back together. I will test it one more time. I do need to cut the backyard, and we'll see what ends up happening with this thing. I think we got it this time though, and I'll feel a lot better about selling it off. All right guys, as promised, here we are at the end. Everything that I showed you worked. I cut the backyard, tried to, you know, disengage, engage it a few times, and belt staying on. Drive belts are working awesome as well, because I did the right thing and put OEM belts on it. You can see they're not wearing at all, which is good, and it is pulled back. Whenever you pull the pedal back or let off the pedal, it stops. Whenever you push the pedal, it goes. A lot of times with these, I like to work them a little bit looser than tighter, because you have a little bit of, if you have a little bit of play right here, it's not going to jolt off and it'll just take off slow. And then at the furthest point of that pedal, you don't need to be mowing grass faster than that with one of these mowers. So if you're looking for a fast mower, go get like a Skag or something. Them things will mow, or I don't know. Not a Troy Bilt. You want to kind of make it a nice easy ride. I did do a little touch-up paint on the front of the deck here, just to kind of make it look a little bit better in the front. Rust-wise, it's not too bad. Everything's just a little bit faded. I'm sure I could shine it up with ATF, but people see right through that mess here, so I don't really worry about it. But what I can do, I guess, is show y'all that it starts up. I kind of already showed y'all that. Starts and mows real quick. And one other thing I also did is this gear shifter. So I see this fairly often. Is the spring on this gear shifter that keeps it in gear, so to speak, had gone out. I don't know if you can see it up top right there. It connects to the battery tray. And I mean, it works fine, but I did notice a couple of times then when I had it in reverse, it slid out of reverse on me. And so I had a spring here. I put it on here. This is one of those, because it's only 5 years old, I wanted to make it as good as I possibly could. We do have a couple of rips here in the seat. Nothing ridiculous, but it is there. I am going to put a new battery in it. I think this one is kind of starting to go, but at the very least I can show you. It smooths out. Blades. That return spring works good too. the blade brakes are worn out, but when I push those guards in a little bit closer to the pulley, it's working great. So I can keep the original belt on. The reverse feature works good. I think I've got it. Excuse me, my goodness. Oh, I got the park brake on, that's why. Maybe not. Maybe I have to turn it on. Oh. Yeah. I forgot about that. Whenever you get off the seat, it senses that. It's kind of a complicated switch. But it works like it should. Who knows why that was missing, but so parts wise, what did we put on this thing? We put this switch, we had to put a main drive belt, blades, fuel line, battery. I think that's it. Spring, return spring, guards, which I had here, which I robbed off of another mower for right now. Air filter, which I had here as well. So I don't have a ton in this mower. Again, we'll recap here. We'll hang out here on the side of the mower, why not? So, I got, what did I have? If I remember, I'll show you all the video to where I put the, to where I went and got this. I'm fairly certain that I made a video on it. Again, the deal was, the gray Craftsman I got for $200, I turned around and listed it for like $3 because it was in super nice condition. It was a rear engine rider. And I believe he gave me $250 and this mower for that Craftsman, which was awesome. This thing was rough. I mean, y'all didn't see it before I cleaned it. Y'all do if you watch the original video. And like I said, I'll try and put a link in the description below of the video of that, as well as the video of how to fix the steering. The one thing on this mower that I don't really like is that the steering is still a little bit, but again, I don't really have any grease zerks that I can put grease in, and there's still, from where they tried to steer it so much with that worn out washer, there's a little play in the actual frame itself because I can see it move, but it hasn't, the steering hasn't popped on me. It's just a little bit harder than I want it to be. So that's really the only thing on this thing. After I put a new battery in it, it starts up, runs good, drives good now that I have the belt on it, cuts good now that I put the guards on it, and everything works like it should now that, and also now that I have the ignition switch on it. So we're doing really good here, and I really am happy how this thing turned out. This thing will probably pull right now because I just got them belts at Tractor Supply. This is July 1st, and they don't have any more of these. They're about the only ones that sell Troy Bilts anymore. Home Depot has kind of gotten rid of them, as far as I know, and Lowe's doesn't sell them anymore either. So they just kind of been passed around, unfortunately. So I don't know the status of the riding mowers there, but this thing right here, an equivalent Troy Bilt Bronco, I know the ponies were like $19.49, so you're probably talking like $2,100 if you went out and bought one of these new. This one being 6 years old, I feel like I could easily get $700 for it, even despite the patina, so to speak, of it sitting outside. So I think we're gonna make out really well on this. I probably have, gosh, no more than $150 in this thing. Yeah, about $150. And I hope y'all enjoyed going through this, and also I hope y'all learned the lesson. Use OEM drive belts. Always, always on these Troy Bilts. I have tried and tried to make aftermarket ones work, and they never ever do. I'm sure Stens and Rotary are fine, but if you can find an OEM, and there's no excuse when I can go to somewhere like Tractor Supply and get one for 25 bucks. I mean, save yourself the hassle. Anyways, thank you all again for watching. Sorry that this video is long. I wanted to get it all in one fell swoop, and I think I did. Hopefully y'all enjoyed it, and I appreciate y'all watching as always. If you have any questions about this video, feel free to reach out to me, Ellis at ellismowers.com or at ellismowers09 on Instagram and Facebook. And I have affiliate links down below that can save you a little bit of money if you find something in those affiliate links that tickles your fancy, so to speak. Anyways, thank you all again for watching. I'll catch y'all on the next video. See you then.